Okay. Good evening. It is 5:30, so we're going to call the meeting to order. And tonight we're starting with a short but important Board of Health meeting. So I'd invite you to turn your phones to silent or vibrate, and then please let's all stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think that's especially important this week with all the activities that have been going on. So, Chris, would you take the roll, please?
Councilmember Stevens?
Here.
Councilmember Berg? Here. Councilmember Dalby?
Here.
Councilmember Myers?
Here.
Councilmember Rowe?
Here.
Mayor Lazio?
Here.
Approve the minutes for meeting number 1 on April 7th, 2020 as presented. Recommendation, approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second. Thank you.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set to consider a condemnation of the structures on the property described as the southeast 18.3 feet of lot number 2 in Simonson's subdivision of outlot number 4 in the city of Ottumwa, Wapello County, Iowa, commonly known as 640 East Main Street.
This is a public hearing, so tonight we will have Zach Simonson from the Planning Department to tell us about this.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. This property was placarded on April 9th, 2020 for a failure to complete demolition and to clean up a dilapidated and unsafe structure. Initially, the city received a complaint about this property in 2016, and the staff attempted to work with the owner to abate the nuisance. In the ensuing years, some of the building was removed, but as you can see, part of the structure remains, and there has been no effort made since April 9th of this year to complete the demolition. The staff recommends that the Board of Health condemn the structure, after which the city will hire a contractor to remove the remaining debris.
This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience that wants to address this item, now's the time to step to the microphone. We also have a phone call in because of the COVID situation. That number is 683-4581. I'll give a couple of minutes for somebody to make a call if they wish. While we're waiting, have we had any written or oral comments to the city clerk's office?
No objections were received.
Okay, thank you. Zach, while we're waiting, is that going to be a very difficult demolition? It looks like that wall is wavering or caving in.
You know, I don't expect that it's going to be especially difficult. One thing that's going to favor us on the cost is that a lot of the work and a lot of the remaining, tonnage to take out has been done. And so what amount of sort of professional care goes into it, at least we won't have to pay as much in other areas to cover that.
Your Honor, I also have a question whenever it's appropriate.
Why don't you go ahead and do the question now while we're waiting so that we can move on, and if somebody calls in, we'll take that call. Go ahead.
Okay, Zach, on the back side, it looks like on the back of the brick building, there's something dilapidated there. Does this include that?
I don't believe that that's on the lot that we're looking at. I can see if there's a map included in the packet. I will make sure that the inspectors look at what's there, and if it is a situation that we need to continue to work on after the demolition here or concurrently do, I'll make sure they do that, but I don't.
Is the brick building tagged at this point in time, and is it occupied?
I don't know the answer
Okay.
to that. I can look it up though and make sure they let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Zach? We've had no call in and no objections, so at this point, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing. So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Condemn the structures located at 640 East Main Street, order prompt demolition, removal, and leveling of the lot, and direct all costs attendant to such actions, including administrative costs, to be assessed against the property and/or collected from the owner or owners thereof. Recommendation: approve the condemnation of the structures located at 640 East Main Street.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Zach? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Is there any other business that needs to come before the Board of Health? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Thank you. At this point now, we'll call the regular meeting of the City Council in order, and we'll take the roll again.
Councilmember Stevens?
Here.
Councilmember Myers?
Here.
Councilmember Berg?
Here.
Councilmember Dalby?
Here.
Councilmember Rowe?
Here.
Mayor Lazio?
Here.
Items on the consent agenda. Minutes from regular meeting number 16 on May 19th, 2020 as presented. Approve the appointment of Lori Creech to the position of Equipment Operator, Landfill, effective May 11th, 2020. Approve the appointment of Jeff Croft to the position of Equipment Operator, Street Cleaning Department, effective May 26, 2020. Approve a 2-year lease agreement with A&A Storage LLC for the rental of a portion of building number 38 at 14478 Terminal Avenue at the Ottumwa Regional Airport. Cigarette permit applications for Elliott Oil Company at Albia Road BP, 1340 Albia Road, North Court BP at 1301 North Court Street, Penn and Jeff BP at 1147 North Jefferson, Richmond and Ferry BP at 720 Richmond Avenue, West 2nd BP at 1049 West 2nd Street, Casey's General Stores, number 7 at 1001 East Main, number 1678 at 346 Richmond Avenue, number 2208 at 1603 West 2nd Street, and number 1886 at 504 West Mary Street. Fairway Stores, number 648 at 1325 Albia Road, Smokin' Hot LLC at 2604 North Court, Suite A, Walgreens, number 1301 at 327 West 4th Street, Yesway Store, number 1012, located at 2508 North Court Street, Yesway Store, number 1013 at 534 Church Street, Yesway Store 1014 at 502 West 2nd Street, and Yesway Store, number 1030 at 1317 East Mary Street. Beer and/or liquor applications for Frontrunners at 837 Church Street, American Legion OB Nelson, number 3 at 550 West Main Street, Appanoose Rapids at 332 East Main Street, Champion Bowl at 2601 Romer Avenue with outdoor service area, Owl's Nest LLC at 116 South Court, Applebee's 1303 Vaughn Drive. All applications pending final inspections.
Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
Move the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Give that to Holly.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Item C on our agenda is approval of tonight's agenda, but before we take a vote on that, I'd like to suggest that we add recognition of Chief McAndrew and combine 4 and 5 on our agenda, and I'll move it up to number 1, D1. So you're actually giving me the leeway to recognize Chief's service. Okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, then let's have a motion for the approval of the agenda as amended.
So moved. Second.
Okay?
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
So we're at item D, which is the administrator's report, and at this point, we're going to ask Chief McAndrew if he would come up. We'd like to recognize his... Oh, yes. Nancy, come on up. I'd be in trouble if I said something like, we know the better half.
Well, then you're not gonna let me talk, aren't you?
Yeah. Tonight's a special night here at Ottumwa, and especially for Chief McAndrew. With his resignation and retirement, he will be completing almost 32 years of service to the Ottumwa Police Department. Tom McAndrew joined the PD in 1988 as an officer and was assigned as an investigator on the Drug Task Force. He also served on the Emergency Response Task Force. Officer McAndrew was promoted to being a sergeant in 1995. He did training, patrol supervision, and supervisor for the Drug Task Force. He was awarded the Kiki Camarena Award from the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. This national award is presented to local law enforcement officers for their contribution to making communities in which they serve a safer place to live. Sergeant McAndrew was promoted to lieutenant in 2007, where he served as commander for the Patrol and Investigations Division. In 2013, Tom McAndrew was promoted to the rank of Chief of Police, where he has served with distinction for the past 7 years. As mayor, I found Chief McAndrew to be a down-to-earth, common-sense kind of guy with compassion and sensitivity. He's a no-nonsense kind of guy. He likes to get to the facts and doesn't like to waste time or beat around the bush. His word is his bond, and those that know Tom know that he's a caring, fun-loving person after you get past the outer shell, and I'm sure Nancy can tell us more about that. We want to thank Nancy for putting up with all the irregular hours and the risk and insecurity of knowing whether or not Tom would come home some nights. We also want to hope and wish the best in retirement for the two of you, because I know he's excited about getting in touch with that grandbaby and keeping up with his children. So we wish you the best as a couple. This evening is a transitional milestone. Chief McAndrew gets to see one of his own officers step into the role of chief. It has to be gratifying, Tom, to see one of your own that you've trained and mentored move into this position and have the support of his fellow officers and the administration. So at this point, I'd like to have you come up, or I'll come out to you, and we'll present you with a plaque of appreciation on behalf of the entire city staff, city council, and city administrators. So wherever we're at, we can get and let's get you in there, Nancy, because you're a big part of this. Thank you very much. I did give Nancy the opportunity to say something, so thank you both for your service to our community, and especially in terms of the risk you've taken over the years. At this time, I'd like to call on Lieutenant Chad Farrington to come up to the podium and to take the oath of office for being sworn in as our next Chief of Police for the city of Ottumwa. Let's go for a reading. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes, we can like that. I'd like to ask you to repeat after me. I, Chad Farrington, do solemnly swear
I, Chad Farrington, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties of Chief of Police
discharge all the duties of Chief of Police
for the city of Ottumwa,
for the city of Ottumwa,
Wapello County, and the state of Iowa,
Wapello County, and the state of Iowa,
as now or hereafter required by law.
as now or hereafter required by law.
I'm going to break the tradition. Now we'd like to have Lori to pin the chief's badge on, and Jason, you get in there and get some pictures, please. And you guys can get up there close to Dad. Yeah, that's a pretty big pin.
Comb your hair, Chief.
Congratulations on behalf of the entire city staff.
Thank you.
You get to notarize.
You want to say anything?
Ah,
To Mike?
sure. It's going to be short and sweet. It's okay. Just wanted to thank the council, mayor, city administrator for this opportunity. Do my best not to let you down, and I look forward to the challenges and serving our community and my officers. Thank you.
Did you get a picture of the whole family? Why don't you squeeze together? We'll break the rule of one here. You're all relatives.
He still is taller than you.
It's catching up pretty quickly.
Chad, could you just go to the other side, just because that light's right behind you?
My impact is zero.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll turn it over to our Administrator Phil Rath, and he can pick up on item D.
Well, thanks for allowing me to follow that. Well, as the public may have witnessed, this is the first opportunity that we've had to get more than 10 people in the room. So that kind of plays into what we're looking at here with update on procedures and facility access. So on a positive note, we're starting to get into a little bit of the new normal. I have kind of laid out a proposed plan, provided that to the council for something to consider, and it will be a work in progress as far as opening up City Hall. Now, for meetings and public hearings, we're able to go up to 50% of the capacity. For this room, it is estimated to be at 40 persons, and so we were under that tonight. But with that event, just barely. So that's good to see. It was a positive event for the community on both fronts. As far as City Hall, we are still open at the moment to by appointments and allowing for people to come in by appointment. Still strongly encouraging for people to call, to use email, anything that they might be able to do, send payments by mail if they can, to try to limit the exposure and the ability to, or the availability to come into the building. The thought and hope is that we're looking to open back up, still again strongly encouraging people to utilize other means, but looking to open up on June 22nd. So that is the thought at the moment. We have received I'll call it an assessment or survey from the county emergency management. We'll be going through that to determine any additional signage, PPEs, other protective measures that we can take to help provide the continuity of services and safety to our visitors and to the staff. And so if we have all that in place by the 22nd and we're able to open up safely, that is our optimal goal. If not, we'll continue to evaluate and take the measures as necessary. Along the lines with the beach, we've had a number of calls and questions about that. Currently, we are open to lap swim. That is the only thing that we really offered that was available to the public at the moment. There's some other things as far as lifeguard training and things that we'll participate in, but for the public, lap swim is the only thing at the moment. We are optimistic, hoping that around the 17th, we'll be able to further open at least the indoor area and expand to the outdoor as we can. You may see that deck chairs are moved further apart, concession areas are moved further apart. That is to help with the social distancing aspects moving forward. And so those are some of the things to look forward to in regards to opening up facilities and procedures. Finally, the last thing I have is a quick, my first 100 days assessment report, whatever you want to term that. And so I just had something, well, hopefully quick enough here that I jotted down some of my thoughts and impressions. And I'll start, if I am being honest, my first 100 days was not exactly the welcome and introduction to the city of Ottumwa that I had anticipated. Now, that is not to say I was not provided a friendly greeting from employees, elected officials, and others I met. Unfortunately, I was also greeted with a pending budget crisis and only a short month later, a pandemic that led to the closure of the city, state, and nation. Aside from COVID-19, I had a fairly good idea of what I was signing up for based upon prior experience and my homework regarding the city prior to the interview process. I was aware of the city's continued work regarding sewer separation projects related to federal mandates. And it was no surprise that these projects had placed financial constraints and deferrals regarding other capital and infrastructure spending, such as road maintenance, lift stations, and other capital equipment. In addition to the capital financing concerns, the city was facing budgetary constraints that, if left unchecked, could lead to bankruptcy within a few years. The budgetary issues became a reality when I sat before a packed council chambers, listening to a budget presentation explaining the dire reality on my second day. At this meeting, I was also introduced to a request to combine the transit services into one entity, a process later approved on April 21st and will officially transfer on July 1st. You may have heard the expression, when it rains, it pours. Well, within my first month on the job, a pandemic hit, further weakening the revenue stream for the city and closing City Hall as well as many other entities and businesses throughout the city. While this limited the ability to get to meet and greet so many residents, businesses, and community leaders, the city was successful in completing an application for an $18 million multimodal transportation project. This project provides a great opportunity for the city. It checks a number of boxes in the pending community plan update and adds value to the riverfront and downtown revitalization. It is a type of project that should highlight several of the opportunities within the city while embracing the strengths. While the city is faced with challenges of reduced population growth, assessed value, and personal income, limitations of technology and code enforcement, the strengths and potential opportunities far outweigh these concerns. The city of Ottumwa is a hub for Southeast Iowa, serving the region in the areas of healthcare, manufacturing, transportation, and education with Indian Hills. The shift toward intergovernmental cooperation and the willingness of community partners to get involved is symbolic of the Midwest values I was raised with and tried to instill in my own children. Growing up, my dad would say, "No matter what you do, leave things better than how you found them." And that is exactly what I intend to do. To get involved in the community and play my role in furthering all the great attributes the city of Ottumwa has to offer. While my first 100 days in Ottumwa was not exactly what I anticipated, I don't know that I would want it another way. These hardships and difficult times are what shape us as individuals and what shape us as a community. There is a superstition that rain on your wedding day is a good omen, signifying the marriage will last. Well, if there's any truth to that, I anticipate a long, enjoyable working relationship with the city of Ottumwa. That is all I have.
Thank you, Phil. Very well said. We hope things only get better and better. Okay, let's move on to item E is a chance for anybody in the audience or on the phone to address any item on the agenda. Is there anybody that wants to address the council this evening? Either personally or on the phone. We'll give you 2 minutes to call in.
Not used to being closed.
Okay, let's move on to item F.
Approve grant application to the Bureau of Justice Assistance to participate in the 2020 Bulletproof Best Partnership Program and authorize the mayor or chief of police to sign any related documents as may be required. Recommendation, approve the submission of the grant application and authorize the mayor or chief of police to sign any related documents as may be required.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any questions for Chief? Hearing none. You want to make any comments?
This is the same grant we do every year, and basically the federal government's paying for 50% of our vests.
Okay. Any questions for Chief? Hearing none, take the roll, please.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Approve agreement and consent to lien for water service costs for part of the 200 block of East Main Street in connection with the Ottumwa Main Street Downtown Streetscape Project. Recommendation, authorize the mayor to sign the agreement and consent to lien for one property, 231 East Main, and the 200 block of the East Main Street.
Is there a
Move the
motion?
recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Larry Seals, Director of Public Works, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. City staff has worked with each property owner directly to determine if a new service or increased volume is needed based on current and future development plans they have for their property. Properties that have already replaced water service or installed fire service will be reconnected at the stop box as part of the project. We are using a forced account method, which tracks time and material or actual cost. The attached agreements are the formal way for payment between a property owner and the city. This particular action is for 231 East Main. There'll be future ones also from the 100 block.
Any questions for Larry? You said we'll bring some more back.
There'll be some more on the way.
Hearing no questions, take the roll.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Bid review and contract award for the garage demolition and fire debris cleanup at 517 South Ward Street. Recommendation, accept bid and award contract for garage demolition and fire debris cleanup at 517 South Ward Street to Dan Larson of Ottumwa, Iowa for the sum of $3,600.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you, Holly. Zach, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. A placarded house at 517 South Ward was part of a training burn for the fire department this spring. After the training burn, the resulting debris and garage remained to be removed. Bids for the demolition of the garage and cleanup of the debris were accepted until 2 p.m. on May 27, 2020. 3 bids were received. The city has had problems with the lowest bidder. 5 years ago, he was banned from bidding on city contracts for 1 year. In addition, there have been current problems with the lowest bidder placing derelict mobile home on a city-owned property without permission, and also on other properties throughout the community. The difference between the lowest bid and the next lowest bid is $190, and the city has not had problems with the next lowest bidder. So we recommend that Dan Larson be awarded the contract. City Code Section 2-234F allows the city council in determining the best quote or best bid to make consideration where applicable to price, service, delivery time, maintenance, warranties, quality of the product or service, or past performance of the person submitting the quote or bid. And we believe that that section would cover accepting the second lowest bid in this case.
Any questions for Zach? Hearing none, take the roll.
I didn't make a comment on that, because I'm the one that had the lowest bidder on that.
Why don't you step to the microphone and give us your name and make your statement?
My name is Tib Wright. I run Wright Contracting, and I was the one that had the lowest bid on this project here. I talked to Jody Gates earlier today and let her know I was going to be here when she told me they was going to reject my bid and give it to Dan Larson. I think that was wrong. I fairly bid on this project, and I came in at $34.90. His bid was $3,600. So the way it's usually been done is the low bidder gets the contract. And like he said, it's been 5 years since I've had opportunity to bid on one of these jobs. And what's happened in the past, I don't know, there's some bad blood between me and Jody Gates, but I fulfilled my part of the deal we agreed to. And I don't see where any of this other stuff in my business has anything to do with this. This is a demolition cleanup job. It's fairly simple. It's a garage. It's not tearing down a house. Obviously, it's burned. That's why I'm here. I think I should be awarded that. I bid on it fair and square. Any other contractor comes to town, sees, if he's the low bid, that's how it should be. So I'm asking for you guys to reject this recommendation, and because I want to do that, I need to work. And I had, like I said, fair and square, I had to bid on it. That's the way I feel about it.
Okay.
And obviously, Mr. Larson's not here, and my opinion is that these bids on these demolition jobs are almost like winning the lottery because there's so much competition. And he's had plenty of work, and so has some of the other guys. I haven't bid on any of these for a while and had, any of this work. So.
Okay. So Zach or Phil, anybody want to make any comments? Thank you for your comments. Appreciate that. Kevin, Director of the Planning Department.
Thank you, Your Honor. The staff recommendation that was made with consideration for the fact that, yes, in most cases we do award the lower bids, but we have to take in consideration, as the code was read, past performance is particularly, in this case, involving demolition exercises. And we have been dealing with issues around the community. We have discussed this on the floor of the Solid Waste Board regarding the activities from a demolition perspective of the contractor in the bid. So we gave what we felt like was the most responsible staff recommendation to council, given what we know has been occurring in our own community, even on our own city public property. And these are ongoing issues that are still happening. So I'll take any questions that members may have. But
Any questions for Kevin or any comments from council?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Can you go into a little bit? Zach had mentioned something that had happened a year ago. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Can you go into a little bit more detail as to the particulars of that?
So the first issue is 5 years ago, which dealt with debris from a demolition being illegally dumped in Mahaska County. The second is within the last year, derelict mobile homes have been placed on a city-owned lot at the airport as well as other lots in the community. I believe 2 of them are still on lots in the community and have not been removed.
So as Zach has informed you about that case and some of the ongoing cases we have as well, we cannot in good faith award the contract for demolition to a contractor, low bid or not, where we do not have a solid confidence that it will be properly conducted. So that's where our staff recommendation, that's the origination of our staff recommendation.
Your Honor, I have a question.
Go ahead, Skip.
Zach, did I hear you say there's still a couple mobile homes on city property? And how long have they been there?
That's my understanding. I didn't check with the building inspectors right before the meeting today, but I know that there have been, and that unless it's changed in the last couple of weeks, there are still derelict mobile homes that are parked on 2 lots in the city, and those have been parked there for, I believe, a few months.
Are they city-owned lots?
No, in this case, they're privately owned lots. The one at the airport's been removed.
There's none in the lots. They've been moved over a year ago. The ones I've got, which has nothing to do with this, are on private property. So.
Well, you're not allowed to have junk on.
One is that Riverside Restaurant in Ottumwa. It is sold to one of the waitresses there. That is zoned industrial. But these guys in the apartment told me it can be there. So, and as far as this one at the airport, that was moved a long time ago. And there's semi-trailers parked all over that place out there. Just because, I guess, people are getting their panties in a bunch of parking stuff out there. I moved it out of there. It was on private property out there even. Are you Chris Cobbler? Okay. Well, I talked to Chris Cobbler, because my boss owns the biggest building out there. We moved that mobile home on his property, and then Cobbler called my boss and chewed him about he's been finding every day that it's parked there. I had permission from my boss to have parked there. Then I moved it down the street to the next building. I worked for that guy, which is Chris Barton from Realm, and he's out in Newton, Iowa. And he had no problem with the park there. And then Cobbler calls and bitches him out and says he's gonna find him. So then I had to scramble and move him again. That's like, a mobile home takes a lot of room. And I needed a place to park it because they had me moved when I took on that project. So I never intended for any of this to get out of hand, and it's blown out of proportion like it's been. And as far as these comments about derelict homes, these came from a group that these are still decent homes. I mean, it's not palaces or $100,000 houses or anything, but they're still decent. I have people who want to buy them. As soon as I can get them moved where they gotta be. But then again, I don't see what this has anything to do with this demolition.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I appreciate Mr. Wright's opportunity to speak and his speaking, but I also appreciate Zach and Mr. Flanagan and planning giving us why they've made the recommendation. So I certainly support the recommendation.
I do too.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, go ahead.
It sounds like there's at least been verbal communication with Mr. Wright for these mobile homes. Has there been any written communication or citations issued in those particular cases?
There's never been any paperwork or nothing served to me other than a phone call. I seen a thing in the paper about it. And that concerns one down agency on private property. And at that time, there was one out there at the airport. I've since moved that one out, and the one's an agency, like I said, it's not anybody's concerned about. It's that mine and the property owner down there.
Okay.
There's nothing in the tunnel right now other than one Riverside Restaurant, and that's on Dave's property. And he, like I said, sold to one of his waitresses. I pay storage fees to Dave, but everything's cool. So
I guess I would lean for validation from Kevin or Joni Keith, our city attorney, to for the accuracy of that.
We've been struggling with Mr. Wright for a number of months. He had taken a mobile home and he parked it at the airport on city property without any permission. And this was a derelict mobile home that he had been paid to remove. And then he moved it on, so we got him to move it, but he moved it on other property. It was private property, but it violated zoning codes out at the airport for him to park a mobile home on even private property there. So he moved, and the owner of that property didn't know he'd put it on, or at least he claimed he didn't know until Chris Cobbler called him. So he got him to move it. He moved it on another private property. That person also claimed he didn't know, or Mr. Wright did not give him permission to put that on his property, so he forced him to move it again. So it's been an ongoing problem within the county. I've done research. The county attorney's office has done research because of the ongoing problems with these mobile homes that are removed and then dumped in different areas. Regardless of the period of time, they were located on city or county property or private property, it violates our zoning ordinances. We did not end up citing him at this point in time because he did finally comply and get them off the airport property. So we're trying to improve the airport and the appearance out there, and it was an eyesore to have this mobile home there. And this occurred all probably around the first of this year. So it's been within the last several months that we've had ongoing problems. And we're researching the issue of the mobile home located at Riverside, whether it's permissible under our zoning code to allow that mobile home to remain on that site as well. And I don't believe it's industrial. I believe it's a C2 location.
And if it were an industrial location, that type of long-term storage requires screening that doesn't exist at Riverside Restaurant. There need to be fencing that kept storage from public view. Short-term parking it there may have been permissible, but this is extended.
This has been months it's been located there. So we're in the process of proceeding against that, but because of the ongoing issues we've had with Mr. Wright in the past and fairly recently, our recommendation, especially when the bid was not very much lower than the second bid, we chose to go with the second bidder. It's perfectly permissible under state law and under our city ordinances.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a duly made motion and second. Is there any other question or discussion before we call for the hearing, please?
No.
Okay, so clerk, would you take the roll, please?
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bid report to reject bids received on the final clarifier sandblasting, priming, and painting 2020 project. Recommendation, reject all bids received.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Larry, you want to explain what you're doing?
We had sought bids to sandblast and recoat all of the steel in the primary final clarifier, which would have been all the inner steel, all the trough steel. We sent out 5 sets of plans, or they was either sent out or downloaded. 2 bids were received. They were significantly over the engineer's estimated cost. So we recommend rejecting all bids. We're going to look at our process and go back out for a new bid and see if we can lower that price because it's substantially higher than anticipated.
Bless you. Any questions for Larry? Take the roll.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on ordinance number 3174, 2020, amending Chapter 31, Section 14 of the Municipal Code of the City of Ottumwa, Iowa regarding sewer fees and charges, City of Ottumwa, Wapello County, Iowa.
This is a public hearing, so Larry, you have the floor, and you're accompanied by, I see 2 individuals that we recognize.
So I think they're familiar faces. One of the things we wanted to do, as the council's fully aware, and we've had different discussions over time, was all the work that we've accomplished. Basically, the hard work started in about 2005 as far as the larger projects. We just wanted to kind of back up, cover everything we've done, to how we got to this point. Through this time period, of course, we've had several different rate increases to fund portions of the projects that we've completed in the last basically 15 years. And then we'll roll over to finance and how we intend to continue to fund the Phase 8 Division 1s, Division 2 and 3 and 4 of the next phase of the project. As you can see, we'll have, Edward, we did a fairly extensive lining project at the airport. That was one phase. As you pan down on the south side of the city, you can see where a lot of the substantial work was done. The section up on the north side was the FEMA project, where we was very successful with FEMA and a special condition CDBG, to the majority of that was paid with outside funds. And we can briefly touch on just some of the funding sources. Each one of these different areas that are colored slightly different represent one of the numerous phases that we've done, phases and divisions. You can also see where John Deere went in and did some extensive separation under their dime. It was a substantial amount of money also. So we've been able to reduce the overall flow to the plant, of course, to back up even further for the general public. Seeing we are a combined sewer system, that means that the rainwater does go in with the sanitary sewer. We are under a federal mandate required to separate the city. Our compliance schedule was 25 years. We did work. We got started about 5 years before that was signed and entered into, so about a 30-year window we're looking at. So you can see that we did a considerable amount. And one of the things that the council and the people that's been involved over the years, we were able to dry up a lot of basements. The south side was prone to every rain event, surcharging quite a few basements. At different times we had up to 500 different basements located various areas on the south side that would surcharge. And what that means is you'd get raw sewage or combined sewage into your basements. We have successfully dried the majority of those up. And then, of course, if you have floor drain plugs and other things for those areas that still have some peaking problems. Let's put up the finance part. Pan down kind of the bottom. We of course keep a running track of everything we've spent. We're roughly at 61.7 million on the sewer side. This includes a lot of street work. This is just one segment of a report that we submit every year to the DNR as far as sanitary sewer pipe, storm pipe, different things that was installed through all of these projects. And again, you're fully aware, we're just now launching the Phase 8 Division 1, which is on the east edge of town. That project is scheduled to kick off next week. So anyway, as we develop and design the different divisions of Phase 8, we have to look at ways to fund it. That's where the rest of the team, Kayla and our financial advisor, has come up with methods and rates that will have to increase in order to continue to fund the work that were mandated. Ted, do you want to go ahead and just add? You've been here since the beginning. I think everybody's familiar with Ted Pacer with the E&K.
First of all, I'm glad to see real people rather than Zoom. I haven't seen most of you since February and March. But as Larry said, we got hired in 2005. The first project kicked off in 2006. In 2005, I was 55, so you can kind of figure out what's going on. But it has been a very interesting project. We've been lucky because the first 61 million, which included a great deal of paving, West Main, for example, we were able to come up with about $40 million in grants. The difference now is, and when Kayla gets into it and Tim gets into it, is now we have to figure out with dollars that are private dollars and hard dollars, how we're going to pay for the rest of this. And I would tell you that of the 61 million we've spent to date, we probably have an additional 61 million to spend over the next 10 to 15 years. We have been successful, and I know the mayor gets tired of me sending me emails, but we've been asked a couple of times to go to DC and talk to EPA Central about the plight of cities our size and what are we supposed to do, when are we done, and what are we going to do to get there, because it has to do with either an extension of a schedule or what I'm trying to encourage you folks to do is really get in there and apply for grants, because something has to give. And I'm very sensitive, I did this my 48th year. I was going to tell the chief that a lot has changed, but in reality, the economies and affordability have not changed in Iowa or in the Midwest, Phil. And now we're in a situation where reduction in sales tax, reduction in income tax, it's a tough time for cities. And so, but I really enjoyed doing this. And I told Larry, my intention is to try to see this through, but I would really encourage you as you look at these rates, and remember from 2005 to probably about 2013, we had minor sewer rate increases because we got grants. And so that as a policy and a strategy moving forward, that's exactly what we need to do. So I would say in a lot of ways, this is what we know now and what we have to do. Even we try to use various sources of financing, but we need to really get active and continue to work hard to get more grants. And I'd be glad to answer any questions, but I'm delighted to see real people again. I was going crazy at home. So any questions for me? Okay, thanks.
Good evening, Tim. You might introduce for our new staff and council.
So my name is Tim Oswald, and I'm with the securities firm Piper Sandler. And I have helped the city with the sewer planning since the original EPA DNR settlement. What's that? More than 10 years ago now. So, so what I do is Ted and Larry do their work on design and thinking about how a project is implemented and all that, and then they give me numbers, and I tend to be fairly blind as to curb to gutter and what all that means and where in town it is. Though Ted did show me one of the very deep holes on the south side, which I enjoyed. But so I take the numbers that they give and then try and say, all right, from here, how are we going to pay for this? You know the tools that you have available. You can use sewer fees. You can use property taxes if you would like to, and you've got the sales tax. Those are kind of the three. Plus, as Ted mentioned, and keep reminding you, grants and other types of contributions. So you just let Division 1 here back in February, and then you sold the bonds in April to fund that project. And so you're paying that bond. That was a general obligation of the city, but you're paying that bond with a combination of local option sales tax and TIF dollars. Your intention is not to use sewer fees for that bond or to pay or to levy the property tax. Does that make sense? The next group of projects are much more heavily reliant on sewer fees. We've used our TIF contribution with the project that's going on right now. You do have some capacity in the sales tax, and you'll use it to pay for part of the next round of projects. But then from there, the rest of the projects will have to be funded with user rates unless there are some grants available. And so you're back to talking about rate increases again. And my view of rate increases is I'd rather you get out early in front of it than wait until you absolutely need it. And then I'm sitting here saying I need a 30 or 40% increase. I welcome your argument to the contrary, of course, but I think our thought process has been let's keep them to single digits and let's do them soon enough that we can keep them to single digits. So the rate increase we're asking for is an 8% revenue increase for the next 3 years. I think I'll probably be back asking you for 3 more after that, at which point we'll probably be plus or minus where we need to be in order to pay for the remaining projects. Again, all of this assumes there are no grant dollars. One key assumption here is Larry and Ted do their work. It's very theoretical. It's very dollars per square foot type of calculations that they're doing. And then as you get into design, of course, those numbers can change a lot. And so I like to call this a mathematical circular. You ask me a question, I answer the question. My answer to you includes a question that you have to answer back to me. And we go back and forth for a while until we get the overall package right. What I tell you tonight is more than likely incorrect 3 years from now. Is that fair? So in terms of funding, you have, about 50 some million of projects left to be let. And so Ted and Larry do their work and then put a number on it. And then I take those numbers and I apply a construction inflation because not all those projects will be built tomorrow. And time based on when the city wants to let each of the remaining 3 phases. And then I work with Kayla to say, all right, what dollars are there available in these different funds? And so the next 3 projects are primarily paid out of sewer fees, 8 or so million out of local option sales tax, but the balance will come out of sewer fees. And I'm asking you to raise rates arguably sooner than you might need to. And so you're going to accumulate some cash. And so part of the plan is you'll use the accumulated cash to borrow less money when we get to those projects. And then that'll allow us to keep the top rate increases a little lower in the back end of the schedule. Am I doing okay so far?
Very good.
Yeah.
Anybody have questions? Okay. So then so one of the takeaways that I've had, and I appreciate Kayla very much. We've used kind of the same process for years of pulling data from the city and putting it together, and we've kind of come to realize that maybe not all of the revenues and expenses were showing in the right spot or in the right areas. And so what we've committed to do with this, with your permission this summer, is really kind of go back and rebuild our calculation model to take into consideration things that we've identified that we've been missing. And they're on both sides of the ledger, revenues and expenses. So, and that may result in a need to change the rate request. It'll be either up or down or flat, right? So, but all you're doing right now, not all, I don't want to disparage that. We're asking you to do 3 years of what I think is probably a 6-year plan. So when we get through with our exercise over the course of the summer, we'll probably be able to report back as to what we found, and maybe we'll have to adjust the back 3 years, either up or down. And we'll certainly do that at that time. To the point Ted raised, he is concerned, and he's articulated that many times, about the impact on the homeowners, residents of the city. You're not up at that. The EPA likes to use this percentage of median household income calculation. You're not there today. It's 2% is what they like to use. But when we get to that 3rd project that remains, we're going to be staring at probably being very close to that number. And I think if I remember the agreement right, you have a reopener that we may want to go back to the DNR at that point and have that discussion about extending the timeline or perhaps adjusting to defer that project in its entirety, because we're going to, absent a surprising income, we're going to be staring at probably getting rates into that number where the EPA would tend to say, all right, you can pause. So we're going to want to keep watching that very, very closely in the next few years.
And you said the 3rd project, not the 3rd year. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. 3rd project, not to the 2% 3 years from now, right?
I just realized I talked to you a few hours ago. I'm sorry.
I had a mask on.
Yes. I'm so slow. Yes, the 3rd remaining project. So the one you've got going now is going, and then the 3rd one after that.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that for the public that heard it, that it's not 3rd year that we're hitting that 2% MHI, that it's 3rd project.
It's
Hopefully
probably in year 5 or 6 where we're going to be getting close. Yep.
Which should hopefully be a compelling argument for grant funding at that point too.
That's the goal.
Yeah, and if I may add to that, because I think the 3-year is really critical. And so I'm certainly on board for this first 3, but I think as Ted pointed out, the team that went to DC in early March, I think Larry and Ted have both reported EPA being more cooperative verbally at the time than they have been in the past. So hopefully over this next 3 years, there'll be some follow-up of some of that. And when we look at 3 years from now what to do. Hopefully, we can look at it a little differently.
If I may tangent for just a second, Ted and I talk about this sometimes. Don't lose sight of what you can do legislatively, locally. You report to the DNR, who then reports through to the EPA. And we have suggested several times legislatively that we think there are better ways to accomplish reduced BODs and whatever in the water stream than forcing Ottumwa to spend the kind of money you're being asked to spend. And proposing ideas where perhaps Ottumwa would do other things in other parts of the watershed that might have a greater impact and cost the city less. I still think that's a scenario that ought to be pursued by the city in addition to talking about federal. Some local legislative relief could go a long way as we look at these back-end projects.
Other questions or comments?
Mayor, I'd like to say that you have the record of being a good actor. That's really important to you. That's people looking for positions for grants and such. You folks have taken it on. Other cities have not. And so even though we're asking perhaps an extension of the timeline or a grant, we can always reflect back on that. But now it's getting to be very dear money. And this is the place most people are in that this is supposed to end at 2036. But now EPA is asking, well, are you done? Well, no. Can I afford to satisfy what you want for water quality? Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, I'm old, forget. But yeah, I mean, it gets to be the point where you've done a good job. You've been rewarded with grants other cities have not gotten. But now it's time for cities and states to push back and say, this has to be reasonable. The 2% of median income is a ridiculous accounting factor anyway. It has nothing to do with anything. But we look at unemployment, we look at property values. That is where we, as a city, we're concerned about. And so we need to continue to push back. We need to continue to ask for an extension, adjustment on water quality standards. And like Tim said, there's so many better ways to do this and the way we're going about it. But we have to break the chain. And if the federal government wants us to do this in that short timeline, they need to come up with the trillions of dollars we've been spending here recently. And that's just the reality of it.
I think we've been fortunate, though, with your help and contacts, Ted. This week, we've spoke with Senator Ernst's office and received a letter from Senator Chuck Grassley, and are keeping in touch with those people because you're right, they can certainly change things in DC. And I think our visit in March was well worth the time and money that we spent to do it, and has, as you know, has already resulted in some contact that we wouldn't have had otherwise.
Right, exactly. So stay the course. I know it's really difficult, and I work for cities much smaller than you, and we're looking at where they have an individual debt of $18,000 per family because of some of the wastewater. Well, what happens to those cities? You know what happens, that eventually they just disappear. But sorry about it.
I do want to go back and cover one point that Tim mentioned. This is very similar to what we did on the first rate increase back in 2007, where there's some substantial revenue increase. It was 12.5% revenue increase. We looked at it at 3 years and then was able to lower it. His projection is out 6, but at 3, we'd look at it. And you guys, as you know, we're going back looking at one of the suggestions that the EPA threw out from Region 7, that we should be charging a base fee to all of our living units. We are in the process of gathering that information, getting all the information we need to talk to multi-unit complexes as far as, what does meters cost, what's deposits for. When we gather all of that, then we'll move that forward. We didn't think we could have it ready in a timely fashion for this round, so that will be coming back. It might be 6 months before we have all that information put together. That will impact these fees in the future when they come back and look at what additional expenditures and revenues do we have.
Your Honor, I got a quick question for Larry.
Sure.
I think you just answered it. So the new rates will become effective if this passes July 1st.
Correct.
But we still won't be tapping into the equity factor here of getting everybody that should be paying their base rates online. Is that true too?
That's correct. We'll catch up with that. I mean, there's several things that we've discussed internally and with council, individually of what we might be able to do to look at the revenue side.
Yeah, and I think it would just be the quicker, the better, and to make sure everybody's doing, their fair share. That's something important to me. And I just wanted to make one comment. I want to thank Ted and Tim and the work you, Larry, for doing. This is a huge project over many years. And I know you guys have always paid specific attention to what burden the taxpayers and the ratepayers are going through, especially in this time. Another unexpected, crazy year. And so I just wanted to remind everybody that when every expenditure, including lost, that we make as a council, every expenditure, and some are on this agenda and some have been on previous agendas, we have to be very careful with what we spend. Because if we don't, that is transferred directly to the ratepayer for other projects. So I just want to make sure that's, remind everybody that that's a sticky position to be in. It's not a fun position for this council to be in myself. But I thank you for the job you've done keeping, being very respectful and trying to find every avenue, including extensions and grants, and guiding us through down that path so that those ratepayers, aren't suffering as much as they could be suffering, especially in other cities. So thank you for that work.
It's been a great journey for me too, by the way.
Awesome.
Finance Director Kayla Mulder is going to make some comments.
Obviously, our hope is that we can come back to you with some revenue numbers, and either this pro forma stays the same or we're able to reduce this pro forma with other revenue streams and or grants. But the main hope would be, some type of infrastructure bill that's coming down federally or statewide from EPA or other sources from DNR. So with that, I can, if you have any additional questions, otherwise.
Well, this is still part of the public hearing, so I'd like to invite, has there been any written or oral comments made to the city clerk's office?
No objections have been received.
And the phone is open, 683-4581.
And maybe while we're waiting, if there are any calls that come in, just quickly, 8% sounds scary, it sounds high. What does that translate into on an average bill as far as dollars?
$160.
So for the first year, the base rate would go from $14.50 to $15.66.
Okay, so $1.16?
Yes.
Well, let me interrupt.
Yeah.
That is an 8% revenue increase.
Right.
All Tim can do is take the total number of accounts and divide it out. And so we have industrial users, we have commercial users, and residential users. So it's not across the board. And some small users, of course, they won't see an 8% increase.
Correct.
And so that's kind of the reality.
Yeah, sure. Yep. And
It's about $3 a month.
so, yeah, so.
On average, about $3 a month?
Yes.
Yeah.
If I could make one one question and one comment, and maybe it was brought up already. How many years has it been since there's been a rate increase?
2013.
Yes, I believe it was 2013 was the last time we had a rate increase.
So just a general comment, and we have discussed this before in prior council meetings. This is it's good that we haven't had those rate increases over the years, but unfortunately now we're coming to the point where we have to pay the piper, so to speak, as a community to make up some of that lost ground that perhaps we should have been looking at all along to make sure that we were keeping up with the cost of the construction. So hopefully we don't get into this position again where we do have to raise the rates at some large unpalatable figure such as 8%, even though the actual dollar volume is low, the percentage of the rate is fairly high. So I'm hoping that, number one, we don't have to ultimately end up, going into that double-digit percentage increase over the next 3 years, but we can stay ahead of this as we move into the future, so we don't have to do this again, because we know that every year cost goes up, whether the We want to keep the tax rate the same or flat. The cost of doing business still rises every year. So as unfortunate as that is, that we have to forward those costs on to the taxpayer, we need to, as a council and city leadership, do a better job going forward of making sure that we are keeping up with those costs. That way, for project, whatever the project is going forward, we don't have to play this catch-up game again.
I think Councilman Rowe hits on a very important topic we've talked about internally as staff. We've got to get to the point where we have incremental increases on all of our programs. I've raised the same question with whether it's a lease, whether it's a contract. You can't, in this day and age, do business like you did last year and expect to keep up. So you're right on target, Mark, and I appreciate your support for that. And we will be bringing some policies back. I know Phil is very interested in that too, and Kayla. So we'll be bringing some things back to the council.
If I may, though, I agree with both of you, but I guess the only one here that happened to have been in the original rate increases to come up with all of these first phases. And the citizens of Ottumwa took quite a hit over percentages of increase, just like we're going to ask them to do now. And so when there came a gap in time that we could drop off some of those increases, it was done. And I'm guessing in 3 years, there'll be several new people up here potentially. And they'll have to look at those kind of decisions too. So hindsight, it's always pretty easy to look back and say what we should have done. But during the time, it's quite often not as easy.
There's a particularly good article in this month's Cityscape magazine, communicating utility rate increases without facing the pitchfork. And I'll see that all the council get a copy of that. And then also the city of Ames does an annual rate increase report, which our staff are looking at. And while you can't compare one city to the other exactly, it does give us a range and at least some perspective. So we'll be bringing more information back because these are the critical questions we've got to start answering to help our citizens and to also keep the city solvent and solid. So, anything else for Kayla? We've had no call in on the phone. Then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing portion of this and move on. So is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
I would mention that we will be bringing this back for more.
2 more.
Yes. So go ahead, Chris.
Ordinance number 3174, 2020, amending the municipal code of the city of Ottumwa, Iowa by repealing section 31-14 entitled Fees and Charges Costs in its entirety and enacting a new section 31-14 in lieu thereof. Recommendation passed the first consideration of ordinance number 3174, 2020.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Howard. Any final questions or comments? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 118, 2020, approving change order number 2 and accepting the work as final and complete for the Bridgeview Center PCC precast repair project. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 118, 2020.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, Larry, you have the floor.
The city council approved a contract in the amount of $153,450 to Merit Construction Service, Inc. of Farmington, Minnesota on September 17th, 2019. This project entailed repair of cracked exterior precast concrete panels and the application of a clear water repellent. Change order 1 consisted of a voluntary deduct that was approved by council at the same date as the contract reward reducing the contract amount $23,450 to meet the funding availability. Change order 2 consists of a deduct of $6,500 as a negotiated settlement on to conclude the project. The contractor has completed the above referenced work, and staff recommends the city council accept the project.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 124, 2020, adopting City of Ottumwa policy to be in full compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, related statutes, regulations concerning discrimination, and to designate a Title VI coordinator. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 124, 2020.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Good evening, City Attorney Joni Keith.
Thank you, Your Honor and Council. Every 5 years, we are required to review our Title VI discrimination policy for the city, and this is in line with all of the grant money that we receive from the federal government and the state government. And we're required to review this policy and update it. And so this is before you tonight. I will be having a compliance review with the Iowa DOT next week to discuss some other aspects of our discrimination policy, but this is the first step. We'll get this approved tonight, hopefully, and then I'll present that to the IDOT and then proceed with some additional things that we're going to be doing next week.
Any questions for Joni? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 126, 2020, award the contract for the 2020 Asphalt Street Repair Program to Norris Asphalt Paving Company, LC, of Ottumwa, Iowa, in the amount of $1,070,520. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 126, 2020.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Is there a
Second.
second? Thank you, Holly. And I think Larry's going to take this.
This project is for our annual asphalt street repair program, which started in 2003 and is used to set unit price cost. The work will consist of overlays on various streets in the city. Staff has reviewed the sewer conditions and ADA requirements for each of these projects. The projects are listed. Plans for the projects are posted on the city website, submitted to Master Builders of Iowa for publication in their construction update plan service, and available to pick up at the engineering office. An announcement is published in the Ottumwa Courier notifying the public of the project. Bids were received and opened by the city on May 20th, 2020 at 2 p.m. The project was advertised on the City of Ottumwa and Master Builders websites. One bid was received. The low bidder is Norris Company of Ottumwa, Iowa. In the base bid was $1,070,520. When we put that staff summary together, we had left the alternate bid item of $83,279.45 off of that. We want to include that because it includes the milling for return work. So the new total would be $1,153,799.45. And again, as we set the public hearing, this is a unit price contract, and we never come close to doing that. We use road use under the expanded street repair program, and we target a specific dollar amount each year. I know there's always questions, why is there such a change order at the end of these projects? It's because of the number of ranges that we bid, depending on the size of the street and where it's located. So it always looks that way every year, and I get the same question from the public and, of course, from elected officials from time to time.
Questions for Larry? Quite a list there. Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 127, 2020, award the contract for the 2020 Chip and Seal Program to Manats Ready Mix of Ottumwa, Iowa, and the amount of $64,303.34. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 127, 2020.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Go ahead, Larry.
This project is for the application of a chip and seal coat to existing HMA overlay streets in an attempt to extend their life expectancy. This process includes sealing and patching of existing pavement surfaces, applying an asphalt emulsion coat, and then topping with a pea gravel wear and course surface. In the late 90s, we did use this throughout the city on various streets. The streets that we plan on doing this year are listed. We have 8 of them, and again, we kind of put them in one area. And all those streets were done with one of our asphalt overlay projects, so they're all of the similar age. Plans for this project are posted on the city website and submitted to Master Builders of Iowa for publication with their construction update plan services and available at the engineering office. Bids were received and opened by the city of Ottumwa on May 20th, 2020 at 2 p.m. The project was advertised again at the City of Ottumwa and Master Builder websites. 2 bids were received, and the low bidder is Manats Ready Mix of Ottumwa, Iowa, in the amount of $64,303.34. The bid tab and plan holders list is attached.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 128, 2020, award the contract for the 2020 Sanitary Utility Access Program to DC Concrete and Construction of Dowds, Iowa, and the amount of $53,300. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 128, 2020.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Larry.
Again, this project will just place sanitary access holes on existing sanitary sewer lines and associated patchwork. Manholes will be placed at locations that have either limited access points or problem areas prone to plugging, causing increased cleaning maintenance. Bids were received and opened by the City of Ottumwa on May 20th, 2020 at 2 p.m. 2 bids were received. The low bidder is DC Concrete Construction of Dowds, Iowa, in the amount of $53,300.
Any questions? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 129, 2020, award the contract for 2020 sidewalk drop and detectable warning installation program to DC Concrete and Construction of Dowds, Iowa, and the amount of $202,375. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 129, 2020.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Gotcha. Go ahead, Larry.
This is the 9th contract and consists of the installation of sidewalk drops and detectable warnings at various locations throughout the City of Ottumwa. The completion of these sidewalk drops and detectable warnings will be a step towards compliance with the ADA transition plan. The transition plan was approved by council on August 7th, 2012. The city owned and maintained intersections are one portion of the ADA requirement. The overall project at the time was estimated at $1,280,000 and is budgeted at $120,000 each year until completed. We do have some years that we underrun that and other years that we overrun. Bids were received and opened by the City of Ottumwa on May 20th, 2020 at 2 p.m. 2 bids were received. The low bidder is DC Concrete Construction of Dowds, Iowa, in the amount of $202,375. The bid tab and plan holders list, they are attached.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 130, 2020, award the contract for the 2020 HMA PCC Street Crack Repair Program to Wolverine Specialties LLC of Jackson, Michigan, in the amount of $22,200. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 130, 2020.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Skip. Go ahead, Larry.
This is also one of our annual preventative maintenance programs and consists of sealing street cracks throughout the City of Ottumwa. Bids were received and opened by the City of Ottumwa on May 20th, 2020 at 2 p.m. The project was advertised on our normal city site, master builders. 7 bids were received. A low bidder is Wolverine Specialties LLC of Jackson, Michigan, the amount of $22,200. And again, bid tabs and plan holders list are attached.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 132, 2020, approving change order number 1 for the 2020 roofing improvements project. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 132, 2020.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second?
Go ahead, Larry.
The council approved the contract in the amount of $111,263 to Hawkeye Enterprise Roofing and Coating of Cincinnati, Iowa, through Resolution 223, 2019. It was on November 5th, 2019. The project consisted of re-roofing the water pollution control maintenance building, the water pollution control airport pump station, and fire station dormitory roof. Change order 1 includes repairs to one 7.5-ton rooftop air conditioning condenser and replacement of an older 10-ton rooftop air conditioning unit for fire station number 1. Change order 1 increases the contract amount by $6,380 for a new contract sum of $117,643.
Any questions? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 133, 2020, approve the adoption of the revised City of Ottumwa personnel policies and procedures. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 133, 2020.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you, Skip. Go ahead, Joni, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Pursuant to Sections 2-144 and 145, the City Code provides for the implementation of the City of Ottumwa personnel policies and procedures for all city employees. Due to changes in Iowa Code Chapters 20 and 400 of the Code of Iowa, which deal with public employment relations law and civil service, there have been a number of sections in the collective bargaining agreements which were approved by council just this year, which were required to be removed from the city's union contracts. Those items such as retirement, health insurance, and job postings were then put into our new personnel policies. In addition, the new manual was updated to include changes in the federal and state laws related to such issues as family medical leave, social media policies, work-related injuries, accident review procedures, and other issues. So we basically overhauled the whole personnel policy manual. The proposed new revised set of policies has been reviewed by the city administrator, who helped make quite a few of those changes, and the department heads. The manual replaces the previous manual, which was developed in May of 2006 and approved by the city council at that time. I've attached, I've given you a copy previously of the underlined, deleted code sections so you could compare it, but the proposal in front of you was without any of the changes. This manual would be effective, if approved tonight, would be effective July 1st of this year. Be glad to answer any questions. I know Skip's called me a couple times and asked some questions. Just so you know, there are different provisions in some of the union contracts that provide slightly different items, like funeral leave for the fire department's a little bit different than what's in this. And there's a couple of other areas. So the union contracts would take precedence over the personnel policy. So you have to read, if you're a member of the union, you have to read the union contract in conjunction with the personnel policies. So be glad to, and I did give the sections dealing with retirement and health insurance to the unions to review ahead of time, and I didn't get any response from them. So they're pretty simple sections, so I wasn't surprised that I didn't hear from them.
Pretty standard.
So, Joni, was the underline changes, you're talking about that copy, was that just online then? 'Cause I got the final, but I don't think I saw a,
I sent those by email
Okay.
to each of you last week.
okay. Yeah.
And then the final was online with Chris. And I gave Skip a paper copy of that. And if you approve that tonight, we'll have to figure out how to get that to the employees. Hopefully, we don't have to use up an awful lot of trees for paper copies, but we'll definitely put it online and give those out as far as we can.
Any questions?
Yeah, just one quick question, just as a matter of process. Is this something that the employees are going to be required to sign off on, or is it just a distribution?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I will have them sign a receipt that they did receive and at their leisure reviewed those policies and procedures.
Thank you.
Joni, just one point of clarification. I've asked you this many times before, but just for public clarification, the only things that were moved out of the contracts were what was required due to the changes to Chapter 20, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, there are certain prohibited items that had to be removed from the contract.
Okay.
So, yeah,
And that was it. Thank you.
exactly.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Good to have that done.
Resolution number 134, 2020, recommendation to transfer $7,654.25 to the Bridgeview Center for delinquent payables due to lost revenue related to COVID-19 for the outstanding payables listing from 4/22 to 5/28/2020. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 134, 2020.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Holly. Okay, Kayla, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This evening, I have brought forth to you an outstanding payables listing for $7,654.25. This is essentially for the month of May or April 22nd, which was the last invoice that I had brought to you to be approved for the Bridgeview Center. And again, so this was for the entire month, $7,654.25. These expenses will be paid using an internal loan, not to reduce the general fund balance. And I will bring you all of the transfers at the next council meeting on the 16th.
Any questions for Kayla? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
No.
Councilmember Rowe?
No.
Motion carries 3-2. Thank you, Kayla. Item J in our agenda is a chance for public to bring up any issue of city business to the attention of the council. Have you received any written or oral comments?
I have received none.
Okay. We'll give just a minute if there's anybody that wants to. Is there any issue of city business from council or city staff that you want to bring to the attention of the council tonight?
Just a quick point of order. So there will be a special council meeting next Tuesday for the second reading of the ordinance on the sewer rates. That'll be, and then the third one would be on the 16th. So 2 more opportunities for people to weigh in on that.
Okay, hearing nothing either on the phone or from council at this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Byrd?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Very good. 7:05.